Hello class! For our self-management project, we will be focusing on using differential reinforcement of alternative behavior to reduce unhealthy eating. The behavior targeted for reduction is junk food consumption. As I am sure you all know, the repeated consumption of junk food can lead to several health problems, which negatively impact an individual's health and quality of life. As a result, treatment to target this behavior is being considered to reduce and eliminate the frequency of junk food consumption. The goal is for the intervention to successfully replace the poor eating habits of each participant with healthier food options. As with any treatment plan, there are some ethical considerations, namely that of privacy. To combat this, we chose to document our information in an app made for ethically tracking personal habits called HabitShare. As is shown here, the app allows its users to create habits and choose who they want this habit to be visible to. The app also allows habits to be completely private, which would make them invisible to any of your friends within the app. Overall, it is a great tool which both protects the user's privacy and allows for easy self-tracking. Moving on to the literature review. In recent years, unhealthy eating habits has become not only widely accessible, but also cheaper and much more time efficient than its healthier alternatives. Previous research on this topic supports the notion that, although people are highly motivated to eat healthily, they find it difficult to override established and less healthy habits. Building on the notion that people do have a desire to eat healthily, the current material seeks to find the effectiveness of implementing differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors to reduce and replace the consumption of unhealthy foods. In other words, can replacing unhealthy foods with healthier alternatives reduce the consumption of unhealthy food choices? To answer this question, we must first understand the behavior and its functions. To this end, 3 articles were examined. Article number 1. What kind of management is self-management? Given that our data will be self-reported, the first article we found that supports the research components is titled, What kind of management is self-management? A two-dimensional approach to self-management in mental health care. The research finds that most actions, as well as the large compilation of split-moment decisions that make up behavior, are shaped by unconscious processes. However, as the researchers go on to explain, the role of consciousness, though limited, is not obsolete. Understanding the limits of consciousness should not drive us to forgo its uses, but rather informedly act on what is known so that it becomes conducive to the behaviors that are desired to see manifest. The conclusion thus comes down to knowing what elements of our present condition we have the power to manipulate so that we know what we can rely on. This leads us to our second article, Reducing High-Calorie Snack Foods in Young Adults, a Role for Social Norms and Health Messages. Building on the notion that behavior is more actively shaped by unconscious impulses than conscious impulses, the question arises. So then, what is shaping those impulses? Just how much of what we do and the choices we make is dictated by the social norms we perceive versus our own innate desires? In a study that contrasted the reduction of junk food intake between 2 groups of people, participants were divided into 3 groups. One group received a message about healthy eating whose appeal was to social norms. Another group's message appeal was to individuals' health. And finally, a third group served as a control group. Findings showed that both groups of people, those driven by social norms and those driven by health concerns, decreased their junk food consumption. This supports the notion that healthier eating habits can be motivated both by their social value as well as their inherent value to personal health once individuals are better informed. Our third and final article is the analysis of health consumers' behaviors using self-tracker for activity, sleep, and diet. Understanding the limits of consciousness and the awareness of the motivating value social and health norms have on eating habits, what then makes junk food consumption still such an issue? Perhaps there is a lack of awareness of the damaging effects of junk food consumption. This is where our third and final study comes into play. In their study, researcher Kim tracked the characteristics of self-tracking behavior and recording personal data on sleep, activity, and diet. Doing this, he dove deeper into understanding, amongst other things, how this personal behavior track would affect the individual's behavior. Findings show significantly fewer data in diet tracking when compared to sleep and activity. This means individuals are experiencing the luxury of ignorance, which they cannot afford. Unless individuals can properly see the data for what they are consuming, they won't have as clear a picture as they need to of the damages their diet is accumulating for their lives.
Discussing the summary of the functional behavior assessment that was conducted for the intervention. Actually, prior to implementing the ABC data collection assessment, which is the assessment that we used for the intervention, we actually hypothesized that the function for the targeted behavior would be escape from being late and automatic due to hunger and being satiated. After conducting the ABC data collection method, the hypothesized functions were proven to be true. The functions for the behavior were indeed escape and automatic reinforcement. The tools that were used in order to conduct the ABC chart was the usage of Google Docs, where we had the ABC chart on, and it was a shared document where each participant was able to log on whenever they engaged in the targeted behavior, and they were able to implement the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence over a series of time. We also used the graphs in order to show the perceived functions of the problem behavior, and we used the habit share app, which we used to simply target the targeted behavior. Below is one example from the ABC chart per participant. So if we take a look at the first participant, Amanda, she logged that on May 27th, she engaged. The antecedent was that she came home late, tired from work, and didn't have healthy food available, so she ordered fast food. The behavior was that she ate the fast food, and she also listed what the food was. In this case, it was a burger and a milkshake, and the consequence for that behavior was that she logged in the data and went to bed on time. The second participant, which was myself, Jennifer, on May 27th, I logged that I was at Disney. I didn't have access to having a healthy alternative. So I engaged in eating junk food at the park, and the consequence was that I logged the data on the habit share. Finally, the last participant, Lady, logged on May 20th. Her antecedent was that she was craving sweets, and the behavior was that she ate the cookies, and finally she logged in the data as well on habit share as the consequence. If you take a look at the next slide, I will discuss now the graphs of the perceived functions of problem behavior per participant. So if we take a look at Amanda, the dates below indicate they match the ABC chart, and the orange stands for on that particular day for that behavior. It was noted that the function of that behavior was automatic, and on another day it is indicated that the function of the behavior is escape. So if we take a look at Amanda on May 27th, the graph shows orange, which means the function was automatic, and on May 30th it was blue, which means the function for that was escape. If we take a look at Jennifer, myself, and you take a look at May 27th, again, you'll see orange, and all the way to June 7th, as well as June 17th, it was orange as well, which indicated escape maintain behavior on my part, as the function for the targeted behavior, and you will also see blue, which indicates escape. And then finally, if you take a look at lady, you see a combination of orange and blue, which shows the same functions for the targeted behavior per day. And the behavior that is being targeted for reduction is junk food consumption. In this case, our main goal is to use DRA, differential reinforcement of an alternative behavior, in order to replace the behavior and be able to live healthier lives.
For summary of baseline and treatment data, the baseline collected across all participants, Amanda was 20, Levi 18, Jennifer was 19. These numbers represent the frequency per week that these individuals consumed junk food. The baseline was collected across 1 week. Across all participants, the baseline collected was of high frequency per week, with an average of 19 consumptions of junk food and a median of 18. When our treatment was implemented, which is differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, it was observed via the graph and table that the trend began to decline across all participants. The week 1 average after implementation of DRA was 18.66 consumptions of junk food. The week 2 average was 16.33 consumptions of junk food. Week 3 average was 15 consumptions of junk food. Week 4 average was 13 consumptions of junk food. The week 5 average was 11 consumptions of junk food. Week 6 average was 9 consumptions of junk food. And finally, week 7 average was 6.66 consumptions of junk food. When you take a look at the graph and the table that demonstrates the numbers of the frequency collected across the different weeks, including the baseline, it is very obvious to observe that the graph demonstrates a declining trend with low variability. So it's a pretty steady graph, and there is a steady reduction in junk food consumption, which is the target behavior. So per the data and the graph, numerically, DRA has been effective in reducing the targeted behavior frequency. So what is DRA? I said DRA a lot, but I didn't actually define it. So under treatment package, the treatment that was used for reducing the target behavior was differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, which the acronym is DRA. DRA is technically defined as a procedure that reduces problem behavior by withholding reinforcement when the problem behavior occurs and instead reinforces an alternative desired behavior. In our case, for our behavior intervention plan, we used DRA because it allowed us to reduce the frequency of junk food consumption while simultaneously increasing and reinforcing the consumption of healthy and nutritious foods. So in other words, when any of the participants engaged in consuming junk food, that behavior was not reinforced. The reinforcement was withheld whenever the problem behavior occurred. But when any of the participants engaged in consuming healthy or nutritious foods, reinforcement was provided. And that is the alternative behavior that is being reinforced. The goal is for junk food consumption to eventually be placed on extinction and instead continue to reinforce our alternative chosen behavior, which is desired, of consuming healthy and nutritious foods. What is great about DRA is that healthy and nutritious foods is the alternative behavior, and it is also functionally equivalent to the problem behavior. This is why it is honestly the best fitting intervention that we could have chosen, because this procedure allows for the targeted problem behavior to decrease and eventually extinct while increasing an alternative desired behavior that is good for the individuals. DRA has been implemented for the past 7 weeks, and the data proves to be declining very steadily, as mentioned before. So DRA has been effective, and it has been the best fitting because it has given us our desired results. The reduction of problem behavior going down and the increase of the desired behavior that we want.